Hey everybody, it's Miss Day. So we've been weaving, and what I have here is an example of just a cardboard loom, and you can see here I did the raya knots and I did some checkerboard pattern, but I've got all these little strings, all these little tails, and everyone keeps asking me, okay, what do I do with these? I'm going to show you how to tuck these in and hide them so that you can take your piece off the loom. So what you're going to do actually is we're going to run the tails right down inside along the warp strings. Remember, these are the warp strings here. These are the weft strings. Okay, so let's start with this pink one right here. So I'm going to run my needle down through, let's see, we'll just go this far. Okay, pull it through the eye. Alright, so now that I've got that pulled down inside there, I could just snip that off. Okay, let's do this green one. So this is why you don't want all of your tails to be on the ends, on the sides, because you can't tuck them all in on the same warp thread. Alright, so got that. Put my tail in. Come on. Okay, then I'm going to pull it through. There we go. So I can just snip that off. And just continue to do that through all of your piece. And that's how you give it the finished look, so that it has all of the tails tucked in. Okay, I'm going to hold it both sides so I don't pull. There we go, look at that, it's looking really good. If I had some scissors on hand, I could trim those off. Alright, I'm going to find my scissors. Hold on. Here we go. Alright, so I've already done that one. And I did this green one. And I did this one. So that's all you do, is you just go through here and put them back through. Just like that. I'm going to hold it right here so that it doesn't pull. Oops, right there, that's where I didn't want it to do. And trim it off. Just like that. And then of course make sure, you know, that you are pounding it so that all of your weaving is tight. Okay. Alright, so that's the cardboard loom, and it would actually be the same process if you're working on one of the larger wooden looms. Of course, the challenge with weaving on a loom is not to pull the weft strings tight, and as you can see here, this is in this example that the student pulled it too tight. So really, once it started leaning in, they should have just stopped and, you know, loosened it back up. So looks like they did pretty well in this first section, but they started pulling it too tight. But you can see here on the back, we've got the tails. You do the same process that you do on the cardboard loom on this loom. You just get where the tail is, and it doesn't matter, you can go up or down, it doesn't matter. Has that one already been pulled through, or is that a start? Okay, there we go. This is some tight stitching, so this is going to really hold it in there nicely. So same thing, just pull it through and then trim it off, and it'll stay together. Okay, so this is how you do that. Now to take it off, you would snip these pieces at the end here, and take these two pieces and you want to tie them together. Okay, so this is how you would remove your piece from the loom. Okay, and of course you can leave them on there as a design feature if you wanted to, or you could even use the needle to tuck these back up inside the warp threads if you wanted to hide them. But this is how you remove it from the loom. You just tie each one in a double knot. Make sure it doesn't come out. Okay, and that would be the process. Just continue through. Okay, so I'm going to try something a little bit different down here. You know, your warp threads have to be an odd number. So as you're going through and tying them off, when I got down here to the end, you know, I'm going to have an extra one. So I think I'm going to tie this one at the end first and work my way back a little bit so that it doesn't show as much. So I'll tie those two. These two. And then I have this extra one, and I'll jump over and tie it with this one that's next to it. There, so now it just doesn't seem quite as noticeable. It's still kind of noticeable, but not as much because it's not right on the end. And I'm noticing here too, you can see the pink warp strings through here. That's where the student missed a stitch or doubled a row or something like that. That's one way you can kind of check your work. If you notice that you can see the warp strings, then of course if you're doing a basket weave, you'll be able to see them, but otherwise usually if you're just doing a straight tabby weave like this, you won't. Anyway, I'd like to move on and talk about the coil baskets. So the process I did here by cutting and then tying, you would do the exact same thing up here at the top. Just cut each one and tie so that you can keep your weaving nice and together and tight. Alright, so for the coil basket, this is coiling cord, and really it's just tightly wound up paper. There's a little bit of string or something with it, but it's just paper. So to start the basket, let me get my yarn untangled here. To start the basket, you want it to be kind of cut at an angle, and you're going to lay your piece of yarn on top of the coil, and you're going to hold it there while you wrap, and you're going to wrap the string around the coil and around the little tail. So that's going to keep it secure and keep it from unwinding or unraveling. Alright, once you get to almost the end, there's several different ways to do a coil basket. I'm going to show you what I think is the easiest way. Now there's many ways, like I said, but this is the easiest way. Once you have about 2 inches worth of your coil wrapped, fold it in half. Oops, fold it in half, and then you're going to pinch and hold the coil together with your right hand. With your left hand, you're now going to wrap the two pieces of coil together, and you want to wrap them tight wrap it tight. And make sure you're covering the coil. So I'm trying to wrap the coil about to here because I'm going to do a stitch, and I'm going to stitch the coils together right about here. Okay, so to do the stitch you need the little yarn needle, same one we used with the weaving. So I'm going to go through the center, and you can see I'm pulling this through and tying or stitching. Oop, this is the toughest part, and this is the easier way to do it actually. Okay, again, another stitch. I'm going to see if I can zoom in. Okay, all right. So I'm stitching these together, and I want to do at least 4. Some people do 3. I like to do 4. It's just my personal preference. And then from here on out, you're going to do anywhere from 12 to 15 wraps. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And if you'll notice, I'm to the end of my piece of string. So I need to start a second color. You could use the same color or go with the second color. It's your choice. I'm going to use another purple. Or maybe this blue color. Or red. I'll try the red. Okay. So to start another color, you want to lay the tails together. So I'm going to have this tail and this tail. I'm going to lay these guys together on my coil, and I'm going to start wrapping again. Okay, and I'm ready to make a stitch, so I'm only going to wrap this one, I guess 3 times to get my stitch going, or I guess 4 times. I'm going to turn and do my stitch. Okay, so I'm going to run the stitch to connect these 2 coils. So I'm going to go ahead and put it through here. Put the yarn. Oops. Okay, here we go. That's 1. Make sure you line it up. Next stitch, line it up, make sure they're right next to each other. Make sure your tails are laying against the coil. Okay, my tail is getting, oh, my tail got tangled up in this. Come on out of there, tail. We're supposed to stay on the coil. Okay. Actually, this tail is kind of long. It's kind of getting in the way. So I'm just going to snip it off so that it doesn't end up popping out and messing up my design somewhere down the road. Okay. So that's my 4 stitches. So now you want to do 10 to 12 wraps. So 1, 2, 3, make sure you're covering up those extra strings, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's see where I would land. I think I'm going to go with 10 because I don't want to interfere with this other set of stitches that I did to bring the coils together. So I'm just going to do 10 wraps and stitch these two together. So hold it in place. I'm still covering up a little bit of tail. And there we go. Another stitch. Another one, and that'll be number 4. Make sure my tails are still getting covered up, okay? And now I'm going to go back and pull this up so I can get right next to that stitch and wrap. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I think this is a pretty good spot to go ahead and do another one. Or maybe one more. Yeah. So I'll do another stitch. When you do your stitches, you only connect 2. You only connect 2. Sometimes people get confused and want to go through the middle every time. You only connect 2 pieces of coiling cord together. If it's more than that, it'll just end up being weak. Alright, so there's my 4 stitches. Here I am back to pulling this in tight here. And I'm going to wrap 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to check and see. So you can see this stitch here. I just don't want to interfere with that, so I could probably go maybe 1 or 2 more wraps and then go ahead and do another stitch right there, and you just continue this process. I'm actually going to show you how to start again because it's kind of tricky. If you get a piece of coiling cord and it's all unraveled, just cut it off and start with a fresh, nice angle. And remember, you don't want your yarn too long or it will just get tangled up. My suggestion to you is to keep the yarn on one side and the coil on the other. Alright, so we start by laying the string along the coil, and then we're going to wrap it over itself. And make sure that you're laying the yarn down right next to where you left off, because you don't want the white to show. You don't want to do this because